Terminology. They Shall Expel Demons Chapter 2. Written by Derek Prince. The New Testament writers give a clear picture of the nature and activity of demons, but the key to understanding these areas is an accurate explanation of the terminology they used. Unfortunately, there are weaknesses in the way different English versions have translated certain expressions from the original Greek text, which have obscured the meaning for English readers. It is necessary, therefore, to begin by examining the main words used in the Greek. 3 expressions are used to describe the evil spirit beings who are some of Satan's main agents in his warfare against humanity. First, demon, Greek, daimonion. This is the neuter singular of the adjective daimonios, which is derived from the noun daimon. Thus the adjective daimonios indicates some connection with a daimon. Although daimonion is adjectival in form, it is used regularly as a noun. It is, in fact, an adjective that has become a noun. We can illustrate this from a contemporary example in English. Green is another adjective that has become a noun, describing a person concerned about protecting the environment. Hence we now talk of the greens. In English, the important distinction between daimon and daimonion is obliterated by the fact that both words are normally translated by one and the same English word, demon. Throughout this book, however, wherever it is necessary to preserve the distinction, we will continue to use the Greek words transliterated into English and italicized, that is, daimon and daimonion. We will form the plural in English simply by adding s, although this is not the correct way to form the plural in Greek. The reference to the original Greek indicates that there are 2 distinct entities, daimon, which is primary, and daimonion, which is derivative. This has an important bearing on the nature of demons, to which we will return in Chapter 11, What are Demons? The derivative form, daimonion, occurs about 60 times in the Gospels, Acts and Revelation. In other words, it represents an important New Testament concept. In the best texts, daimon occurs only once, in Matthew 8 verse 31, where it is apparently used with the same meaning as daimonion. But this is not a normal use. The second expression used in the New Testament to describe an evil spirit is unclean spirit, used about 20 times in Luke, Acts, and Revelation. The third expression, evil spirit, is used 6 times in Luke and Acts. In Luke 4 verse 33, 2 of these expressions are combined, as the writer speaks of a spirit of an unclean demon, daimonion. Altogether, it appears that all 3 expressions are used interchangeably. Demons are unclean spirits and also evil spirits. The original King James Version regularly translates daimonion as devil. This has led to endless confusion. The English word devil is actually derived from the Greek word diabolos, which has no direct relationship with daimonion. Diabolos means slanderer. In all but 3 occurrences in the New Testament, it is a title of Satan himself. In this sense, it is used only in the singular form. There are many demons but only one devil. Satan is given this title because his primary activity is to slander, that is, to defame a person's character. First and foremost, Satan defames the character of God himself. He did this in the Garden of Eden, when he suggested to Adam and Eve that God was not treating them fairly by withholding from them the knowledge of good and evil. Second, Satan defames the character of all those who in any way represent God. This is his primary weapon against the servants of God. All the main translations subsequent to the KJV have observed the distinction between diabolos and daimonion and have translated diabolos as devil and daimonion as demon. Unfortunately, there is another area of confusion that has not been cleared up in some of the modern translations. The Greek noun daimon gives rise to a verb daimonizo, which occurs about 12 times in the New Testament. The obvious English equivalent of this verb is demonize, which the Collins English Dictionary defines as to subject to demonic influence. In the New Testament, this verb occurs only in the passive form, to be demonized. In the original KJV, it is translated regularly as to be possessed of, or with, a devil or devils. Most modern versions have correctly changed devil to demon, but incorrectly retain the form to be possessed. The problem with this form is that, to English ears, the word possess immediately suggests ownership. To be possessed by a devil or demon implies that a person is owned by a devil or demon. But there is no basis for this in the Greek word daimonizo, which conveys no suggestion of ownership, but means merely to subject to demonic influence. Obviously, the form of words we use is of vital importance. It is one thing to say to a person, "You are subject to demonic influence." It is quite another to say, "You are possessed by a demon," or, worse still, to say, "You are possessed by the devil." Let me say emphatically that there is nothing in the verb daimonizo to imply possession. Personally, I believe that every born-again Christian sincerely seeking to live for Christ belongs to Christ and is owned by Him. It is monstrous to suggest that such a person belongs to the devil or is owned by the devil. On the other hand, I know on the basis of my own experience, and of ministering to thousands of others, that a born-again Christian can be subject to demonic influences. Such a Christian undoubtedly belongs to Christ, yet there are areas of his or her personality that have not yet come under the control of the Holy Spirit. It is these areas that may still be subject to demonic influence. Throughout the rest of this book, then, I will for the most part speak of such people as those who are demonized. The Greek verb that usually describes the action of getting rid of a demon is ekbalo, normally translated to drive out, but in the KJV regularly translated to cast out. As I said before, I chose Weymouth's translation expel because it describes a familiar action of everyday life. Throughout this book I will use these expressions more or less interchangeably: cast out, drive out, expel. Another Greek verb used in this connection is exorkizo, normally translated to exorcise. The KJV translates it to adjure. In contemporary English, to exorcise is defined as to expel evil spirits from a person or a place by prayers, adjurations, and religious rites. The word is used frequently in the rituals of liturgical churches but occurs only once in the New Testament.